My brothers, something's moving behind the scenes, and this time it's not just locker room talk. With the trade deadline closing in, decisions that could completely reshape this offense are being debated inside Omar Khan's war room. And what's coming might split opinions and shake up this locker room in ways no one saw coming. Before we dive into it all, hit that like button to support the nation and drop a comment below. Do you think the team really needs to bring in another wide receiver? Or do they already have what it takes to make this offense click? Take a deep breath, Steelers fans, because what's about to unfold in Pittsburgh could redefine the course of this season. Go Steelers! Now, Steelers Nation, let's get straight to it, because something's brewing in Pittsburgh that could shake up this offense in a way few expected. With the trade deadline approaching, the Steelers front office is weighing moves that could redefine their wide receiver room, and the names floating around right now are causing quite the stir. Brandon Cooks, Tyler Lockett, Calvin Ridley, even Marquez, Valdez, Scantling. These are the veterans linked to Pittsburgh as potential additions, each bringing something different to the table, but each with his own set of questions. And behind closed doors, the conversation isn't just about finding a playmaker, it's about finding the right fit for Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, and this locker room that's still figuring out what its offensive identity truly is. Let's start with the most affordable names because Omar Khan loves value. Brandon Cooks, at 32, might not be the same burner who once terrified defensive backs in his prime, but he still runs a crisp route and knows how to get open. He's not going to win many foot races anymore, but his hands, still dependable. His release off the line, still sharp. And most importantly, he can be had for next to nothing. The Saints are in the middle of a fire sale, and a late-round pick might be all it takes to bring him to Pittsburgh. The question is, would that really move the needle? Cooks would slot in as a WR3 or WR4, someone who could bring veteran steadiness without taking touches away from Calvin Austin III or Roman Wilson. He wouldn't stretch the field, but he'd give Rodgers another trustworthy route runner. For a team that loves cheap, reliable veterans, that's tempting. Then there's Tyler Lockett. Released by Tennessee, he's on the market and could be signed tomorrow for the veteran minimum. But at 33, the burst that made him a deadly deep threat in Seattle just isn't there anymore. 2 years ago, pairing him with Russell Wilson would have made sense. Today, his separation downfield has vanished, and his numbers show it. Just 52 yards this season. Still, the argument for him is chemistry. Rodgers values timing and precision, and Lockett's always been the kind of receiver who knows how to be in the right spot. But does that outweigh the lack of
speed and the wear on his legs? For Pittsburgh, that's the dilemma. Do you take the safe, short-term route, or do you look for something with a little more upside? That brings us to Marquez, Valdez, Scantling, an option that feels almost too logical. Younger, faster, familiar with Rodgers' timing from their Green Bay days, and capable of taking the top off a defense. Unlike Lockett, MVS still has his speed. He's not the most polished route runner, but he doesn't have to be. Rodgers already knows how to use him, how to weaponize his verticality, open space for DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin, and force defenses to respect the deep shot again. And maybe that's the key here, balance. Pittsburgh has plenty of short yardage targets and possession guys. What they lack is someone who forces the safeties to stay honest, someone who stretches the field vertically. MVS could be that guy, and the price is right. No trade, just a veteran signing once he's fully healthy. But if we're talking about splash potential, there's one name that stands above the rest, Calvin Ridley. This is where things get interesting. Ridley's not a throw-in depth piece. He's a legitimate WR2 who could instantly change the dynamics of this offense. The Titans are reportedly in a fire sale mode, and with Ridley's age, contract, and current injury situation, they might be open to a deal. A third or fourth round pick could get it done. Ridley's vertical speed, smooth route running, and ability to win downfield would fit beautifully next to Metcalf, giving Rodgers two real weapons on the outside for the first time since arriving in Pittsburgh. The risk? He's 30, he's expensive, and his hands can be inconsistent. But in a win-now season with Rodgers under center, it might be worth it. Because if Ridley's healthy, you're suddenly talking about one of the most dangerous wide receiver duos in the AFC. And here's where it gets tricky. According to the Post-Gazette's Jerry Dulac, the Steelers aren't actively shopping for a receiver. That's the official line, at least. But Steelers fans have heard this before. Every time the front office insists nothing's happening, something's usually brewing beneath the surface. Dulac himself admitted the team's always open-minded. And that's the thing. Tomlin and Khan may not be hitting the panic button, but they know their Super Bowl window with Rodgers is narrow. They also know that relying too heavily on 12 and 13 personnel sets with tight ends like Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Darnell Washington limits their explosiveness. You can feel it watching this offense. The potential is there, but but the spark is missing. That's where this entire conversation circles back to Calvin Austin III. The team genuinely believes in him. They see a player who, despite his size, creates consistent separation, wins to all three levels, and brings a Tank Dell-like spark to this offense. And if you really watch the tape, the comparison isn't far off. Austin's been open more often than he's targeted. He's made tough catches despite his frame. He's that underdog player Pittsburgh loves to develop, someone who was doubted, dismissed, and yet keeps proving he belongs. But is that enough in a division stacked with elite receiving duos? Because that's what this all comes down to. Baltimore's got Flowers and Andrews. Cincinnati has Chase and Higgins. Even Cleveland's found rhythm with Cooper. Pittsburgh, they've got one star in Metcalf and a bunch of questions behind him. So while the front office can play it cool, every fan watching knows this offense needs one more playmaker. So here's the million-dollar question for Steelers Nation. With the deadline approaching, do you want the team to swing for a name like Calvin Ridley, or stick to a smaller move, maybe a Brandon Cooks or an MVS, and trust in Calvin Austin III's development? What kind of move do you believe gets this team closer to a Super Bowl run? Because let's be real, Steelers Nation, this decision isn't just about talent. It's about identity. For years, Pittsburgh's built its reputation on defense, toughness, and discipline. But now, with Aaron Rodgers at the helm and a roster built to win immediately, the conversation is changing. The Steelers can no longer just rely on their defense to grind out wins. They need to evolve offensively, and that starts with finding the right supporting cast for their quarterback. The front office knows it. Mike Tomlin knows it. And if you've watched the games closely, Rodgers knows it too. You can see it in the body language on the field. Rodgers scanning the secondary, waiting for someone to break open, sometimes holding the ball a split second too long because he doesn't fully trust the separation. DK Metcalf can only do so much as the true WR1. Calvin Austin's electric but still developing. The tight ends, while reliable, don't consistently stretch the field. It's not about Rodgers declining. His arm is still sharp. His anticipation elite. It's about the supporting cast catching up to his vision. And that's why the wide receiver market has become the epicenter of conversation in Pittsburgh this week. Take the hypothetical. Imagine a trio of Metcalf, Ridley, and Austin. Suddenly, defensive coordinators can't cheat over the top of Metcalf anymore. Safeties have to pick their poison. Ridley becomes the intermediate assassin, Austin the motion weapon, and the middle opens for Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. The ripple effect would be massive. Rodgers thrives on rhythm and trust, and Ridley's ability to separate with speed and precision would finally give him that outlet when the pocket collapses. But again, there's that price tag. A third-round pick isn't nothing, and Pittsburgh still values its draft capital like gold. Omar Khan isn't known for reckless deals. He's known for calculated aggression. Now, if the Steelers go the safer route, say, signing MVS once he's healthy, they gain something different, familiarity. Rodgers already knows exactly where Valdez Scantling will be on every route concept. The chemistry is instant, the timing natural. He's not going to give you 1,000 yards, but his speed demands respect from defenses. Even if he catches only a few deep balls a game, the impact would be felt across the offense. Suddenly those 12 and 13 personnel sets start to breathe again because safeties are forced to play deeper. It's not flashy, but it's effective, and with this coaching staff, effectiveness often wins over style. But what about the other side of the equation, the do-nothing approach? Jerry Dulack's comments hint that Tomlin might be comfortable rolling with what he's got. The idea is continuity, letting Rodgers continue to build trust with Austin, Wilson, and Metcalf while maximizing tight end mismatches. That's the Steelers' comfort zone, betting on internal growth instead of external additions. It's the Steelers' way. But here's the thing, the rest of the AFC isn't waiting around. Baltimore's offense is humming. Cincinnati's finally waking up. Even Cleveland, with their inconsistencies, still poses a weekly challenge. If Pittsburgh doesn't adapt now, that narrow division lead could evaporate fast. There's also something to be said about the locker room dynamic. Bringing in a new receiver mid-season changes the rhythm of an offense. Routes, reads, trust, all of it takes time to mesh, even with a quarterback as cerebral as Rodgers. Calvin Ridley, for example, would need to learn the nuances of Rodgers' timing, the hot reads, the audibles at the line. That's not instant. But if it works, it's a game changer. The Steelers' passing attack could finally match their defensive intensity. The ceiling rises dramatically. Meanwhile, fans can't ignore how this team avoided a massive mistake with Justin Fields. Imagine if Pittsburgh had committed to that deal, the guaranteed money, the long-term tie-in. Instead, they landed Rodgers on a short, team-friendly contract, and he's already outplaying expectations. He's been sharper, more efficient, and more composed in big moments than Fields ever was. That decision is why this current conversation even exists, because Rodgers gives this team a legitimate Super Bowl shot this year, but only if the front office gives him enough tools to finish the job. And here's the subtle beauty in all this. The Steelers have options. They're not desperate. The wide receiver room might not be elite, but it's functional, and that gives Khan leverage. He doesn't have to make a move. He can wait for the right opportunity, a fire sale, a late deadline discount, and swoop in at minimal cost. That's exactly how Pittsburgh operates. Patience until precision. But make no mistake, the stakes are enormous. Every move or non-move will send a message. Add a veteran like Ridley, and you're telling the locker room you're all in on a championship. Stick with Austin and the current group, and you're signaling belief in the system and development. Either way, this is a defining moment for the season, a fork in the road that could determine whether Pittsburgh is merely a playoff contender or a true Super Bowl threat. So Steelers fans, what do you think? Should Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin take the swing for a proven playmaker like Calvin Ridley and push their chips to the center of the table? Or should they stick to their philosophy, bet on chemistry, trust the young core, and let Rodgers work his magic with what he's got? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button if you're riding with Steelers Nation, and check out the videos on screen for more deep dive coverage into the black and gold. Because at the end of the day, this decision defines not just a roster, it defines a philosophy. Are the Steelers going to be the team that plays it safe, trusts the process, and leans on grit and discipline? Or are they ready to step into the modern NFL spotlight, where elite offenses win championships? For the first time in a long time, the balance of power in Pittsburgh isn't on the defensive side of the ball, it's in Aaron Rodgers' hands. And he's shown flashes of what this team could become when everything clicks. The precision, the timing, the